Hello and welcome to NB Drives. My name is Nishmanya. Today, I'm very excited to be driving the new Porsche 718 Boxster. Now, this 718 not only happens to be the entry point to Porsche's Boxster range, but also its entire sports car range in India, meaning this sits below the iconic 911. Now, its pricing is anything but entry level because a new one of these is going to set you back roughly 1.5 crores, and that's before options and taxes. Additionally, it's also worth noting that an all-new generation of this, as well as its coupe counterpart, the Cayman, is set to come sometime next year, and that is spec'd to be an all-electric vehicle. So this might be your last opportunity to get an internal combustion engine version of the Boxster. So I'm gonna take it out on Indian roads, drive it, give you my opinions on what it feels like, the things I like, things I don't like, and stick around for the full review. Now, before we get into the driving dynamics of the new Boxster, I would like to touch upon the design of the 718. As Porsche hasn't changed a whole lot about the looks since it originally launched back in 2016. This on its own isn't a bad thing, as the Porsche 718 still has a very sporty and contemporary overall design. It is wide and low slung, which not only gives it a sporty stance, but also plenty of road presence, despite this being the entry point to Porsche's sports car range in India. There are some unique design touches around the convertible that help make it look modern, such as the slim LED daytime running lights integrated into the front bumper that also double up as the turn indicators, the smart looking LED PDLS headlights, which by the way perform really well, and the sleek LED tail lights. Both look very smart and wouldn't look out of place in a brand new 2023 launch. However, there are a few things around the car that I'm not such a big fan of, such as the 18-inch alloy wheels, which in my opinion look a touch small and simple for a car of this stature, though I understand that they are necessary for the Indian road conditions. The other thing is the fact that the newer iterations of the Boxster that have followed, like the GTS, the GT4 and GT4 RS, all make the standard model look a touch basic in comparison. The fabric roof of the 718 is a big part of the Boxster's appeal. It is available in 4 different colors and can be raised or lowered electronically in just 14 seconds. Step inside the 718 Boxster and you'll be greeted by a very well put together cabin with great build quality and use of premium materials all over. It's got a clean and uncluttered design, which has aged very well, and in my honest opinion, it'll continue to do so going forward. The touchscreen in the center console is decently large at 7 inches with a reasonably responsive screen, but by today's standard, it does fall behind in terms of both UI and connectivity features. However, what I'm very glad to see is the presence of physical switches for both media and climate controls. In a day and age where everything is moving towards either capacitive buttons or touchscreen based controls. This car also features the standard bucket seats, which look quite narrow but offer a reasonable amount of comfort and support, and they bolster you fairly well, even if like me, you have a larger frame. The 7-speed PDK automatic gearbox is extremely quick to respond to inputs, and despite being a nearly 7-year-old design now, it still feels at par with the quickest units out there. This car also comes equipped with the optional Sports Chrono Pack, which brings with it the iconic clock in the center of the dashboard, as well as 4 drive modes, including Sports, Sports Plus, Individual, and of course Normal. The paddle shifters behind the steering wheel also feel very premium to touch and are quite responsive in use. It's time to move on to the fun stuff. That is the driving experience. Now, I'm gonna be upfront with you guys. This was my first time driving a Porsche sports car, and I really wanted to ease into the experience and get familiar with the power delivery, the dimensions, and even the seating position of the car before I started to stretch its legs, as I was acutely aware of the value of the sports car as well as of our Indian road conditions. However, what came as a surprise to me was the fact that it didn't take long before I got comfortable with the 718 Boxster and started to carve my way through traffic and even pick up the pace a little. Looking at the dimensions of the Boxster, with it being almost 4.4 meters long, 1.8 meters wide, and having a wheelbase of around 2.5 meters, these aren't dimensions you typically associate with a small two-seat sports car. And instead, they're more in line with the rough footprint of a mid-size SUV. However, the driving dynamics of the Boxster is anything but that of an SUV. Speaking of the driving dynamics of the 718 Boxster, it handles like a dream. Thanks to its excellent weight distribution that stems from its rear mid-engine layout, as well as the excellent chassis tuning that Porsche has done. There are buckets of grip on offer, and the Boxster has almost no body roll through the corners, which when put together mean you can confidently carry a surprising amount of speed through the corners and have faith that the car will keep up with you. It is also worth mentioning that the ride quality of the 718 is surprisingly supple for a sports car, which in my opinion is definitely aided by the smaller 18-inch wheels and the thicker rubber it's riding on, as it helps soften the blow from some of the sharper bumps and imperfections on our roads. This by no means makes it a luxury car, but considering how well it handles in the corners, the slight trade-off in terms of looks of the smaller wheel for the improved ride quality is definitely worthwhile. Then we can move on to the steering of the 718 Boxster, which is extremely well jobbed. At low speeds, it's very light and easy to use, meaning it's a breeze to use through slow-moving traffic or when maneuvering through tight parking spaces. But as you pick up pace, the steering weighs up very nicely, giving you plenty of, and I mean plenty of feedback. The unit's also very precise and responsive to inputs, giving the Boxster an almost go-kart-like feel on the roads, with its eagerness to change directions. Its relatively compact dimensions for a two-door performance car and great visibility also make it quite easy to use around town when compared to some of its larger and more cumbersome counterparts. I also want to talk about the Sports Chrono pack that was optioned on this particular 718, which brings with it 4 different drive modes, an overtake mode, as well as launch control, all of which help give character to the 718. From the time I spent with it, the Boxster is best left in normal mode as it's very well calibrated for daily use in urban environments and slow-moving traffic. The sports mode definitely helps dial things up and also opens the exhaust. Thankfully, there's a separate button for that as well. And the Sports Plus mode is ideally left only to extract that extra tenth of performance that you'd need on a racetrack or through some twisty roads. Here is a look at the exact stats of the 718 Boxster. I know its 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo petrol might seem a little small on paper, and its 300 horsepower figure might seem a little anemic for a sports car. However, there's plenty of performance for a car that weighs only 1.3 tons and sends all its power to the rear wheels. And what this 4-pot turbo petrol lacks in terms of sound and character, it more than makes up with its wide and usable power band and minimal turbo lag. In fact, the performance figures of the standard 718 Boxster with the Sports Chrono pack are quite impressive, as the 0-100 kph time comes up in just 4.7 seconds and it goes on to hit 200 in just 14 seconds. Lastly, there's the question of road presence, which I initially thought wouldn't be very high, as they're crazier looking and sounding cars in the same price range, and the 718 is a little on the subdued side. However, as I'm sure you can tell from the clips, Almost everyone we drove by looked back to see it at least once. And when I parked up, people came up to me to share their excitement about the car and find out more about it. So my preconceived notions about the Boxster turned out to be quite off, and the two-door convertible really won me over. So, I hope you found the video interesting, and I'd love to know your opinions on the Porsche 718 Boxster, as well as your thoughts on convertibles in general in the comment section below. If you enjoyed watching this video, do hit the like button, consider subscribing, and also share this video with anyone else who you think would enjoy this sort of content. Cheers!